Hello everyone, this is the demo video about creating a Docker file. We are taking the example of the VQA service we created the last time. So, what is a Docker file? A Docker file is a container which is used in deploying our services or our softwares. Why it is helpful? It is helpful as it can tolerate and install all the dependencies by themselves. So, it could avoid version conflicts, errors, and independencies, etc. Right? So it is a very good way, and it is lightweight in nature. So Docker is very helpful. Now, how we will be using it? We would create a Docker file. It is a basic step. Docker file has a pre-built functions like from, work dir, run, copy. These are the commands that are useful and are mandatory while creating a Docker file. Now we will talk about the Docker file. What is Docker file? Docker file is the base structure for creating any Docker images, right? So Docker file need to be in the format of this. The first line states the from. It is the base. What we are using it, what our service is based on. It is based on Python and it is a 3.11.13 version. Why it is important? So whenever it is run, it is always on 3.11.13 version to avoid the version conflicts between their apps, their environments and the soft service environment. This working directory app defines where to store all the Docker files at. Now we would copy the requirement.txt and install it here. Okay, and we'll copy all the folder that we need. The thing to be kept in mind is I don't want if I create an environment variable or my env to be there. So what we can do, we can create a docker ignore file and we'll mention them in there. Docker file is there and it would exclude those. Now the ports. As my fast API use the port 8000 while Streamlit use the port 8501, I want them to run there. So I would expose these ports, right? And I would lastly, cmd command is to run it. Run can be multiple times, but cmd is the main execution thing, which could just exist once any Docker file. Every once, okay, it could be just one time cmd. Now to run it, you could refer to the readme.md. Okay, so first thing is you could just, after creating the Docker file, you could just wrap it in a zip file and send it to anyone who need it, and they could just make the image, and it would all the environment, the dependency, the requirements will be installed independent to their machines on this Docker, and they could run it. Okay, so the first step is to create the image after Docker file is delivered. So Docker build -t my VQA image. This is the name of the image. You could change it. -t in a Docker build is used to create an image. Okay. Don't forget the full stop as it would get errors. This one might take some time. So now you could see the Docker image is built. Either you could run the Docker image directly by this command, but it is not recommended because it is static in nature. To make this, we use containers, right? Okay, so we use containers for it. You could say the images are like the recipe and containers are like the food cooked from them. They can be independent of the recipe. You could add something of your own, है ना? So that's what it is. To create a container, we would use this command. What it says, docker run -t name, the name of the container you want to run, and on what port you want to run it, and my VQA image, right? So here we would execute it, and now this is the ID where it is. So see if the service or the container is working or not, we would use the docker ps command, and here it is, my VQA container on this port. To see it, we would use the port. And see, this is the working site we have made so far. The Docker file has been built successfully. It is running, right? So this is one. Now, if you would try to run the image after creating a container, it would raise an error saying the Docker is already running somewhere else, right? The port 8051 is already used by the container, so it can't give it to the image. So what we have to do, we can now stop it. by using the stock container. Okay, so if you would do the Docker PS again, it would say all the images, or there is no thing, right? Okay, what did -a did? -a tells about all the containers that are built or were deleted. So this one was created. It also told about it. Okay, next command, we could just remove the container after stopping it, so it couldn't exist anywhere. Okay, maybe I have made some mistake. Now to delete the image, what we can do, docker rmi the name of the image, my VQA image. Okay, so it says it is already used by this one, so we could use the commands.
तो टेस्टिंग के लिए ले लेते हैं ना.
This one is deleted successfully, and thank you.